How to restore a tube radio, step 6. Good day, and welcome back to Mike's Radio Repair and Restoration. We're continuing on with step 6 of our Hallicrafters S40B restoration. Going to be doing some interesting and fun things today, like turning it on for the first time and seeing if it goes. But again, my usual caution when we start these videos, that if you're following along at home, you have to be careful. There are dangerous all the way up to lethal voltages in the back of these sets, so you follow along at your own risk. Please take all the necessary steps and precautions to protect your safety. So with that in hand, so today we want to accomplish getting the knobs done and cleaned up. I've got a little trick for some Hallicrafter knobs here I'm going to show you in a minute. We're going to put the tubes in it, we're going to connect it up, we're going to turn it on, and if it goes, that's great. We're going to do the 455 kilohertz alignment, and we're going to take a look at RF alignment and all the things that are there, and of course start working towards assembly and finishing the unit. And by the time we get to the end of this video, I'm sure we'll be pretty close to done and have a working radio. So if you've been placing your bets out there whether this is going to go or not, now is the time to get your bets in. My ohms meter says it's going to work, so we'll see. So with that, let's start taking a look at what we're going to do with some of these Hallicrafter knobs. So there are these 4 smaller knobs that go on the front of this radio. I don't know if you can see, they've got little dots in them. When it came from the factory, those little dots had little dots of red paint that have long since gone. So once you've cleaned them, these ones are so-so. They went into the ultrasound and got a little bit of a scrub. They didn't come up too bad. They were very, very dirty. So you can put them in, if you don't have an ultrasound, you throw them in a container, warm water, a little bit of dish soap, leave them sit overnight, let them soak, and then the next day, give them a scrub with a toothbrush and rinse them, and they usually come up all right. Come up usually much cleaner than what they were. So I'm going to show you how I put my red dot back on. I got to try to work around the camera here as best as possible. I'll probably bump it. My apologies in advance. But the first thing you need to do is steal some red nail polish from your wife. Shh. Try to make a little bit of a dot of it here on a piece of paper, like that. Take a little tool, something with a small point, and get a little bit of red paint on it. Invariably, you'll put on too much, like I did, but that's easy. Just let it sit for a second, give it a wipe. I don't know if you can see that, but it perfectly put that little red dot back in place. Let's do that again. First, you got to find it with my old eyes. There we go. Wipe it with a tissue. The excess off again. Bam. Perfect little red dot. This is easy stuff to do. Just attention to detail is kind of nice. I like it. Had it when it came from the factory. Let's put it back. It's not hard to do. That one I'm not happy with. Let's put a little bit more in. There we go. One last one. I'm working off camera here, not too bright. And again, that wasn't filled to my satisfaction. And this modern nail polish dries very quickly. You got to work fast. My little dot of nail polish is drying quickly there, and there we go. We got a nice red dot back there. So that's a trick to put the red dot back on the knobs. And of course, the tuning dials turned out okay as well. So let's take a look at the speaker and talk about it. I'll be right back. Well, this is kind of a rare treat to have a speaker that's not all broken or buggered up or cracked or split. I don't think this one's got a split in it at all. It looks pretty good. Maybe one. Let's just have a look, see. No, maybe just a tiny little dent, but nothing serious. But it's not uncommon for these speakers to have splits in the moving surround. If it's not too bad, even a split up from the center, or one split or two, is not so bad. I use Carpenter's wood glue, and again, I put a dollop on a piece of paper and I use a toothpick, and I seal the cracks up with this stuff, and I let it sit overnight. It dries very hard. It works very well. I don't use rubber cement. Rubber cement, for some reason, seems to dry in a funny way, and it starts tugging on the paper and causing problems. One of my pet peeves, and I'm sure it would be yours if you ever got into this situation, is when the voice coil of the speaker starts to touch the inner magnet. The voice coil starts to rattle on all the bass notes, and it just sounds terrible. And rubber cement that I've used in the past has had a bad track record for doing that. That's where this stuff dries, the water dries out of it, it dries fairly quickly, doesn't seem to pull the cone left, right, up, down, anywhere, and doesn't trigger a voice coil touch. So I've had good luck with this, and I would recommend that. Some of my other videos you can go back and watch. You can see that I've used this stuff on other speakers, and it's worked out quite well. And, I've gone back and looked at them 5 or 10 years later, and they're still in good nick. So I'm going to stick with this plan and recommend you give it a try. So let's move on now. Well, it's time to turn it on. Put some tubes in it and turn it on. So I have my 40-meter dipole connected. My 100-foot long wire, unfortunately, has come down with an ice storm. I got to put another insulator on it. I haven't put it back up yet. I probably will do later on this week. I like to test the radios with the 100-footer because of the low band. So, but we'll deal with it. We'll deal with the 40-meter dipole. Should pull some stuff in. This is midday, early afternoon. So we know the low bands. Like the AM radio band. The 3 meg to 4 meg amateur section won't be very active. It'll be pretty quiet. But coming up towards 7, there should be some, and up, higher than that, up towards 30, we should get a little traffic. Let's see if this old girl works. So let's start putting tubes back in it. I'm just going to throw them in willy-nilly here. 5Y3 rectifier goes back here in the cheap seats. This has got to be our audio tube 6K6. Now, as we saw, I've been through all these tubes and picked out some good ones. And what have we got here? 6SG7. It goes back here. 6SA7. Very important tube. Makes and breaks the whole radio, that one. 6SK7. 6SC7 preamp. 6H6 rectifier, type of a detector and noise limiter. 6SK7 IF amp here in the back in the cheap seats. So that's our tube complement all back installed. So what I'm going to do is turn the variac on at just around 112 volts or so, which is ample for a first try. So cross your fingers and anything else you've got 2 of. Everything looks like it's in the right position. Let's We'll start, yeah, well, we'll start at the bottom band. Even though we know nothing's going to be there because of the time of day, we'll come back and try it when those bands are active a little later in this video. But for now, I want to hear static and noise on every band, and that tells me we're going in the right direction. So, oh, we got dial lights. Hey, that's always a great sign. This is always exciting for me. As many of these I've done, I never grow tired of this here. Oh, I got a big old speaker all clipped in and wired up over there. I hear some noise. Not much on the broadcast band. I didn't think there would be. Hope you can hear that. There's noise. That means it's good. It's a success. Let's go up the band. We got noise here too. Lots of noise. No radio. Time signal.
Verses 13 and 14. If thou turn
Pretty quiet. Oh, it's too high. That's all we're at. Side band. CW. Time signal at 20 megahertz.
burying him in the liquid grave, it's all intact. This is what we're showing for. That's what's taking place in our heart. And then being raised then from that liquid grave. Humano cuenta 24, ha ganado cuenta.
Kind of like I thought. There wouldn't be much on it this time of the day.
Oh, the word, Josh. Define days being. I remember reading once a statement that said character is not developed in a crisis.
BFO work? Let's find out. It does. Perfect.
By hanging gardens on the wall, on the high wall.
And that's again the broadcast band. There's nothing on in the daytime where I'm located. Very little, nothing. So it works. We have a radio. We have success. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put the front panel on it. I'm going to put the speaker in it. No, actually, no. I'm going to do the 455 kilohertz alignment next. Is really the next deal. Or maybe I should put the panel on it. Yeah, I think I'll put the front panel on it. The 455 kilohertz alignment has to be done with the back part of the cover off because I've got slugs up on top, 3 to reach, and these have got slugs on the bottom that I got to reach from behind. So the back part of the chassis has to be off, but the front face will help stabilize it as I'm doing it. So I think I'll put the speaker in and the front panel on, and then we'll proceed with 455 kilohertz alignment. But we'll also come back a little later in the day and check out the other two bands, make sure that they're smoking along okay. I'm pretty sure they are. They sound great insofar as they're picking up atmospheric noise. So that's great. Successful. We'll be back in a minute. Okay, we're back with all the knobs and panels on, except for the BFO, because we're going to calibrate that after we do our 455 kilohertz alignment. I'm letting it run to warm up before we do any alignment. Been on for a good half an hour or more now.
Where are you at? What country?
This is sideband with the BFO on.
Roger, Roger, got Chris.
Amateur radio operator. A minute to make his log, and he'll start calling again probably.
PQ Florida QSO Party, November 4 Sierra, N4S, QRZ.
Lightning.
PQ Florida QSO Party, November 4 Sierra, N4S, QRZ.
Sounds like he's in Florida, I guess.
PQ Florida QSO Party, November 4 Sierra.
You can see the BFO injects the carrier back in. You can adjust the space between the carrier and the sideband with the BFO.
PQ Florida QSO Party, November 4 Sierra, N4S, QRZ.
Like that. So, anyhow, let's stand it up and let's get into the 455 kilohertz alignment. Alrighty, we're set up like the manufacturer asks, with our signal generator set to 455 kilohertz and a 400 hertz modulated tone in that frequency. And this is where our signal source is located or connected to chassis ground into the center gang of the capacitor as per the manufacturer's instructions. We're also clipped on to the speaker, and we have a meter set on 2.5 volts AC. So when we turn the radio on, we're going to hear the tone from the signal generator, and we're going to tune each of these coils one at a time, top and bottom, for maximum peak on the meter, meaning more signal getting through. So I can change the meter's point by turning the volume control up. Pretty loud. So now I'll go ahead and I'll begin tuning for a maximum peak on each coil. I'm in the bottom now. Bottom of that one. Top of this one. Probably can't hear me. Oh boy. Well, that was quite a gain. So the receiver sensitivity should pick up soon. Sorry, I knocked the camera. We're in close quarters here. So I'm going to do that over again. I'm going to turn my signal generator down a little bit for a weaker signal. For the record, that's as low as the generator goes. I can hear some noise in the background, so it's pretty low, but the radio's still picking it up quite easily. So we're just going to bring the needle up with the volume control, and we'll tune again. That's that. Good. Okay, we've got that part. Next, we have to center the BFO. Maybe I'm going to stop the camera and just move the radio so you can see what's going on. Great news! We've reached a milestone with YouTube that allows our subscribers to offer us a great big thanks in the way of a tip. The funds collected from your generous tips will be used to buy more old radios and parts to generate more great content. On a PC, if you click on the three dots in the bottom right corner, you can choose Thanks from the menu and choose your tip amount. If you're on a mobile device, again, you can see Thanks in the lower right-hand corner. Your consideration and support of our channel is certainly greatly appreciated. I thank all of you that have turned this so quickly into a great community. Okay, just before we continue, another public service message. I had to make this tool to tune the IF transformers. It's got a very wide nose on it. Sometimes they're hex keys, sometimes they're slots, and this was a slot but very wide. So I actually custom made a tool for these radios, and it actually worked very well. But always plastic with IF transformers. The tuning all together, the trimmer capacitors or the coils underneath in the RF deck or the IF transformers, always plastic. If you use metal, you could break something. You could electrocute yourself. Sometimes there's power running through these things. But what you will do is you will affect the tune. As you get close to a resonant circuit with a metal screwdriver, you're going to change the tune, and it's not going to be right when you take the screwdriver away. So always plastic, always non-conductive, always non-inductive. So we successfully went through and got our 455 kilohertz alignment done. We gained a lot, which is pretty typical of an old radio. Sometimes somebody got in the back, owner thought they were doing the right thing and they did the wrong thing, or just inductor drift over a period of time. You know, it's been rebuilt with new capacitors, some new resistors, and a couple of the tubes have been replaced. So I wouldn't expect it to be right bang on, but we did get some decent gain. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to calibrate the BFO. Now, the VFO, when properly calibrated and properly centered, actually generates a little micro signal also at 455 kilohertz. And this is what allows us, in the original days, if you had a CW carrier and then you could move the carrier induced by the BFO a little bit, it would create a pitch. So instead of just hearing the carrier shut off and on, you could hear the pitch. And in the case of sideband's real simple. Like you've got a main carrier and an upper and a lower sideband in AM broadcast. So somebody one day thought, well, what happened if I get rid of a sideband? They gained some power efficiency and some signal efficiency. And then they thought, well, what would happen if we got rid of the carrier altogether and we just had one sideband, like an upper sideband or a lower sideband? But at the receiver station, we re-injected the carrier so that we could decode it through a standard demodulator circuit. So that's what this does, is it puts a little bit of 455 kilohertz carrier right down the center of the IF, and then you can vary with tuning or a little bit with the pitch control the distance between the carrier and the sideband in order to make sideband sound proper again. So it's kind of slick. That's a happy accident. It was never really invented to work this way, but it does. So that's why it's important to get this calibration right. So I have a signal going into the unit, 455 kilohertz bang on the nose with no tone. The tone is going to be made by the distance between the main carrier of 455 kilohertz and this tiny little transmitter here called the BFO, beat frequency oscillator, or they call it pitch control in the old days. So when I turn the volume up, you can just hear a little bit of a noisy carrier in the back, but the moment that I turn the BFO on, you'll hear this high-pitched sound. That's the actual distance between the carrier and the BFO. And when I turn this, so now I don't hear the tone. That means that the carrier and the BFO frequency little mini transmitter are on the same frequency exactly. So I turned it clockwise. If I continue to turn it clockwise, it'll go out of frequency again. Up it goes. See, I come back. Or if I turn it down, it goes out of frequency. So you want it to be right at what they call zero beat. Right in the middle as to where the frequency of the BFO and the frequency of the incoming carrier are exactly the same. So now we're going to put our BFO knob on. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to do this very properly because I can't see. I can hear the BFO just growling a little bit. There we go. Perfection. But the idea is you get the knob on with a little red dot pointed right up at 12 o'clock. So you know when you put your BFO control right at 12 o'clock, that's pretty good. Now I'm going to screw it all up. I did screw it all up. That's what I get for trying to be perfect. Okay, I see what's happening. There's a screw loose underneath the knob. The whole BFO control is spinning in the chassis. Sure enough, let me just tighten that and I'll be back in a second. Well, that explains why I couldn't get it. It was loose. This nut here was loose, and the whole, this is, you know, a lot of these controls are variable resistors or variable capacitors. This one's a variable inductor, which is kind of sort of an interesting design. and its outer case is attached to the chassis with that one nut, and that one nut was a little bit loose, and I guess I didn't check it. I should have. And so any little movement on my behalf was causing it to drift. So our BFO signal's still there. Let's see if we can get it right this time. Sure would be nice, wouldn't it? Still giving me some grief. There we go. We're at 12 o'clock. Pretty darn close. So now we know our BFO is dead on center. Now, it's not really necessary super to do that, but I like to do it, and I'll tell you why. And it's easy to do, as you just saw, is that if I put my BFO dead center and I tune to a given AM radio station, I can turn on the BFO and I can tune my radio dial until I hear 0 beat. Then I know my radio's tuned exactly to that frequency that transmitter's on, which is handy if you're doing AM for amateur radios, 0 beating in to the station you're talking to, or 0 beating in your own transmitted signal. It's kind of really a key necessary feature to learn. So it's good to know. Put it up at 12 o'clock. You're putting the signal right down the center of that IF, and you can 0 beat in radio stations, or you can use it to receive sideband. So that's done. Couple of other another public service announcements is, don't be that guy when you put the knobs back on your radio that you put them right down onto the fascia of the radio. Lift them up a little bit so they don't touch the faceplate. I've seen many radios come in where the faceplate under the knob is terribly chewed because the technician didn't spend the time to just space them a little. So don't be that guy. Space them a little bit. So we're going to have a look at the RF section here in just a second. Let me just swing the radio around and move the camera. Okay, we're looking at the RF section of the radio. When I say RF, this is all the internal tuning array. This section here is the oscillator, covering all 4 bands. This section here is the input, selectivity input to the mixer. This here is the selectivity input from the antenna. The manufacturer's instructions are very clear as to how to get this done, and I'm not going to do this live on camera. And I know everybody's kind of been begging for me to do it, and one day I will, but the problem is that it takes a long time. For me, I'm fussy because you'll start at one end of the band and it'll tell you to scroll up to the top end of the band and tune it, and you go back and forth until you get both ends of the band on spec. Like, let's say the bottom end of the band is 10 megahertz and the top end of the band is 30, so that when you dial down to 10 and you dial up to 30, that both ends of that dial are calibrated, and that takes a little bit of an effort, and you wind up going back and forth. It's a simple process if you follow the manufacturer's instructions. It's just time consuming. So you can go back and forth quite a few times until you get it right, and that's what I prefer to do, to get it right. So in this case, what I do, and let's go back to the concept of the metal screwdriver we talked about, is you have to also tune all of this stuff with plastic, proper tools. I will go through it and I will do a quick and dirty tune with the cover off, just to get it close in the ballpark. And then I'll put the cover on, and there are holes in the bottom of the cover because when you put the metal cover over this, of course, all of this is going to change. So you do your final tune with the bottom case on, and that's what takes quite some time, is trying to fish through the case and get everything right bang on. It's a fussy job, but I like to do it properly, and it does take me some time. Like I say, I'm not going to have you strapped here for 2 hours watching me try to twiddle with screws. One day I'll do a section and I'll post it, but not today. But I will point out that there are capacitors, trimmer capacitors, as you can see here, and there are inductor coils. Some of them have had their beeswax picked out of them. Like these two here have to have this wax removed in order for you to do an alignment. It's never been done, but somebody's already picked out the wax out of these. So somebody's been here once before, good or bad, I don't know, but we're going to find out. So I have to remove the wax out of these two guys before I can proceed. So that's kind of sort of the next step, is to get that. Once that alignment done, you can call your radio done and restored. This one's working pretty good. We'll take it for another test drive here just in a little while when the bands open up some and we can see what it really does. Now, we did get quite a bit of gain doing the IF alignment, which was nice to see. And we'll see how it performs once the bands open up a little bit. I decided I was going to go outside and take a look and see if I could throw my 100-foot antenna back up. I think it was one insulator that broke. I got to go out and have a look at it, but it's pouring rain, so I changed my mind. So we're stuck on the 40-meter dipole, which is great for signals in and around 7 megahertz and on multiples of maybe 14 and 21. But doing the low band stuff down into the threes, down into the 160 meter band or AM band, it's not going to be wonderful, but it'll work. It'll get our test done. So when the bands open up, we'll be back and take a peek at that. Okay, it's a little later in the evening. Some of the other lower bands are open. Let's take it for a spin. We did the alignment on the IF, and it's probably going to be much more sensitive. So right now we're on the upper bands, which is like 15 megs up towards 35, 40 megs. You can just hear that WWV, 15 megahertz.
ukradnutý a následne presunutý to nájdení najprv do Bratislavy.
I'm not going to be too much on the upper bands because we're losing sun. That's WWV at 20 megahertz. One thing we're going to hear north is maybe some Citizen Band radio guys. Usually in there arguing and fighting. There you go. See, big guy. So let's go to the next band. And it's right down to the bottom here. We're starting up about 16 megahertz. This is FT8 on the 20 meter band. I don't hang around on music too long because it can cause YouTube to issue copyright problems on my videos, so I don't hang around on the music very often.
Harriet, you said according to Russian newspapers, including the state-run outlet, but why don't you keep in mind?
If I have to only hear it, I'm not going to remember it. Yeah, but that's a complete opposite for me. Okay, well that's fine.
So here's a demonstration of how you can tune an AM station bang on center using the BFO. You turn the BFO on by going to CW. You can hear the pitch. You tune the pitch till it's gone. Once you get to 0 beat, you turn it off, and your AM station is right bang on frequency.
Well, I don't know. At 30-something miles, it could be a good way to witness, actually.
So that's kind of a handy trick. If you get your BFO set up right, it's handy. That is CHU, the Canadian time signal.
As the Prime Minister's numerous rights demonstrates an increasing hunger.
National Guard units were put into service to quell the demonstrations. Suddenly, the smell of smoke and the sound of gunfire split the air.
Wonder what that is.
Reporters witnessed the whole tragic event.
At the request of the Portage County prosecutor, an injunction has been imposed by County Judge Albert Garris, barring all persons from the KSU campus, except those specifically authorized by the Ohio National Guard. The injunction requires all students living on campus to depart as soon as possible, and at the latest by 12 noon tomorrow. At this point, the majority of students have left the campus, and many are awaiting rides from parents and friends. The injunction has been imposed as a result of this weekend's campus disorders. This afternoon, 4 persons, including 2 women, were shot and killed on the campus during renewed demonstrations involving hundreds of students.
Members of the National Guard units at Kent State had fired loaded weapons without warning into crowds of anti-war protesters. A similar
Sounds like a historic broadcast over the Vietnam War, maybe.
Jackson State University
Cool.
in Mississippi.
You never know what you're going to find on shortwave. Sometimes it's interesting.
A presidential
At the top, that it needs a mount, and it doesn't have a controller. Have it. Unless you were trying to take a
This is 40-meter band amateur radio operators on AM.
pretty arduous task of just trying to get a thin wall piece of plastic. Might be able to repair it somehow. I don't know if that form of flexible plastic would be repairable or not without
That's kind of cool too.
and to be able to keep it.
There's some sideband guys on here. Let's see if we can get them.
You sound fantastic. You got great audio and beautiful signal. You're 20 over 9. Have a fantastic weekend, buddy. Appreciate you just coming back and giving us a good report. Have a wonderful evening. Enjoy the ham radio time. And thanks for calling audio.
So that sideband on 40 meters, our VFO's working proper.
Usually in the form,
6 megahertz.
maybe some of you remember some.
This is band 2, 1.7 megahertz. I don't have my big antenna, so we're not going to get any 160 meters, guys. I don't know what we'll get here right now. A little bit of FT8 guys on 80 meters. Some sideband there.
Drops us into the presence of God and causes evil spirits to
Right around 5 megahertz.
Scripture,
Go to
we see
the
God use
AM broadcast band.
Alabama, y'all love the SEC boys.
Still early. Still not a lot on the AM band, but it's coming. Come back like 11 or 12 o'clock. This will be full. But I don't have an AM station within 200 miles of me, so there's nothing to listen to until the conditions change in the evening, and then it opens up for continental North America. You hear Boston and Maine and stations in Ohio, Florida, and well beyond. So AM is kind of a nighttime thing. Yeah. So all in all, it's a nice little radio. I picked it up cheap because I didn't have one in my collection. I've got an S40, an S40A, and now I have this S40B. It will benefit for sure some more from having the RF alignment done. I don't need to put the cover on this, or I don't wish to put the back cover on this just yet. I have another project coming up with a signal tracer that I want to be able to use this radio as a demonstrational piece. So I'll probably want to get that done and then do final alignment. So, well, this has been a long series, taken a while to get it done, but it's done and it seems to be working in fine style. Like I said, it would benefit more from the RF deck alignment. It'll probably pick up a few more dBs here and there and certainly get the dial calibration closer than what it is. It's not bad the way it is, but I can get it spot on. I've done quite a few of these radios and they respond pretty well to having a good solid alignment with them, to them. So thanks for following along, and we'll see you again in the next one. If you have any questions or concerns, please feel free to leave them in the comments below. So once again, thanks for tuning in.
World News Today, brought to you by Continental Radio and Television Corporation, makers of Admiral Radio, America's smart set. By shortwave broadcast direct from world capitals as well as the leading news centers of our own country, CBS correspondents are waiting to bring you a complete report from the world's political and battlefronts. But first, here's John Daly with a summary of headline news as received in New York.
It is clear now that the Russians look for more than the lifting of the siege of Stalingrad. They're out to smash the German army.